Alright, so today we're going to talk about the first two topics in the Math 7 curriculum. And actually these are some basic skills that you're going to need before we even really start getting into the Math 7 stuff. So today we're going to talk about place value and rounding. They're both going to be considered part of Unit 1, and so our color for Unit 1 is going to be purple. So you can take a minute and color code your notes. It says color me purple. Luckily for me, I have a purple pen, but you could use a colored pencil or a marker or something like that. All right, first topic for today is place value, and we learned about that way back in elementary school. I'm going to start by reading this little guy right here. It might be a little blurry on your screen, so you can follow along on your paper. It says, in place value, every number to the left of the decimal has a partner to the right of the decimal. Remember, though, that there is no such thing as a ones place. So the ones place and the decimal point are partners. So if you look at your little picture right here, here's your 2. It's in the ones place, and the decimal point are partners. Okay. If you look one space to the left of that box, you have the tens place. And if you look at one space to the right of that box, you have the tenths place. So 10 and tenths are partners. Okay. If you go 2 places to the left, you end up at the hundreds place, 872. And its partner is this 4 in the hundredths place. So you have 100 and hundredths. Okay, one more time. If you go 3 places to the left of the box, you end up in the 1000s place where the 5 is. And if you go 3 places to the right, you end up in the thousandths place where this 5 is. So you have 1000 is partners with 1000th. So it's really pretty easy to remember as long as you know that each place to the left of the box here has a partner one place to the right. Tens and tenths, hundreds and hundredths, 1000 and thousandths, 10,000 and 10,000ths. So we got some little guys here just to remind you that everybody has a partner. So we're going to do a couple of examples. We're going to write these numbers out in words. Our first example is this number here. You have 0.0056. This is a number that's pretty small. This number is less than 1. And in fact, both of these two numbers are less than 1. Less than 1. So when we have numbers that are less than 1, we're looking at the number all the way to the right. So the first example, we have a 6. Here's my decimal point and here's my 6. Well, that 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces away from the decimal. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4 places away from the decimal, and we find out the 6 is in the 10,000s place, 10,000ths place. Okay? If we consider that number without any of the zeros or the decimal point, it should be pretty familiar to you. That number is 56. So we read this as 50. There's a T in there. 56 10,000ths. Okay. This one, the 8 is all the way to the right. So if you're less than 1, you're looking all the way to the right. So the 8 is all the way to the right. It's 2 places away from the decimal point. So we go 1, 2. It's in the hundredths place. If we consider this number without the 0 or the decimal, again, pretty familiar, that's 18. So your answer is 18 hundredths. 18 hundredths. Again, 8 is in the hundreds place. It's all the way to the right. And you think about the number without the 0 or the decimal, and it's 18 hundredths. These two numbers are pretty large. These guys are greater than 1. Okay, and we read those a little bit differently. We have to look all the way to the left instead of all the way to the right. So here's the 3, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places away from the decimals. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's in the 100,000s place. 100,000s place. When we have large numbers, we kind of group them at the commas here. Okay, so we can read this 340,000. Every time you see a comma here, you're going to say 1,000. So this is 340,000 So that takes care of the first bit, 340,000. We can cover that up. And what do we see? We see a 561, 561. 561. So altogether, 340,561. Okay, last example. If we go again all the way to the left, so the decimal point's hidden, it's a large number, it's greater than 1. That 1 right here is in the millions place. So we say 1 million. Okay, 234,000. We can cover up that chunk, 567. So for me, these work out a lot better if you chunk them into pieces. So we look at first the 1 and then the million. We can cover that up. 234, see the comma and read 1,000. We can cover that part up. 567. Okay. Part 2 of today's notes, and probably the more important part, is about rounding. So let's look over here at this side on rounding. We have a little rounding rhyme. It says 5 and above, give it a shove. 4 and below, let it go. So the rules are determine what place the directions tell you to round to. To do this, you must actually read the directions. You have to read directions. Okay? Look one decimal place to the right, and in case you forget which way is your right, you got a little arrow here to help remind you that way is your right. Okay? If that digit is 5 or larger, shove the place you want to round to up to the next number. If that digit is 4 or less, let it go and leave that place that you want to round to alone. Okay, I think this will make a little bit more sense if we look at some examples. So this is 1 point, decimal point's not showing up too well, 1.2946, or 1 and 2,946 10,000ths. We're rounding to the hundredths place. So if you look back over here at your little chart, the hundredths place is 2 places away from the decimal. So the number here, the digit in the hundredths place, is the 9. So we're rounding to the hundredths place. Okay? We look 1 place to the right and it's a 4. 4 meant let it go, leave it alone. So we're not going to change that 9, it's just going to stay 9. So this is 1.29, or 1 and 29 hundredths. Okay? Again, we're still rounding to the nearest hundredths. That's what our directions told us to do. Zoom that in a little bit maybe there for you. Still going to the hundredths place. So that's 2 places to the right of the decimal, and the 4 is in the hundredths place. So you can either highlight it or underline it. We're going to look 1 to the right. 1 to the right is a 9. 9. 9 is higher or larger than 5, so that means we're going to shove this 4 up to the next spot. So this should be 5.35. We're giving that 4 a shove up to the next number. Okay, last example, still to the hundredths place. 4 is in the hundredths place. We look 1 to the right, and it's also a 4. 4 is less than 5, so we're going to let it go. This one stays 0.34. We're not changing that 4. We're leaving it alone, which means that that's 34 hundredths. Next set of questions ask us to round to the nearest tenth. The tenth is 1 decimal place away to the right. So we're going to underline the tenths place. We got a 4 there, we got a 1 there, and we got a 9 here. Okay, if we go 1 to the right, we have a 5. 5 means you round up. This becomes 2.5, or 2 and 5 tenths. All right, this guy right here, here's 10. And we're looking at the 1. We go one place to the right. It's a 2. 2 means leave it alone. It's less than 5. So this is going to be 10.1. We're not changing that 1. Last but not least, this one's kind of tricky actually. So we're at the 9, and we're going to go 1 to the right, and it's a 5. 5 means round up, but we can't put a 10 here. What we have to do is we have to put a 0 here and a 1 here. So this one actually rounds up to 1.0. So you think about this 5 makes this 9 a 10, and when you do that, you kind of have to carry the 1 over to the next decimal place, and you have to move this one up as well. So that one rounds to 1.0.